An elderly man, Samuel, walked slowly towards the grand concert hall, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nerves. This was the night, the culmination of a lifetime of dreams. He clutched his worn-out violin case, a relic from his youth, its smooth wood a familiar comfort against his trembling hands. Inside the hall, the air was thick with anticipation. The murmur of the elegantly dressed crowd, the clinking of glasses, and the soft ambient music created a symphony of its own. Samuel, in his simple, clean but threadbare suit, felt a pang of self-consciousness. He was out of place here, a ghost from a different world. He found his way to the backstage entrance, a place he was told to wait. As he stood there, watching the flurry of activity, two imposing security guards approached him. Their faces were grim, their eyes cold and dismissive. One of them looked Samuel up and down, his lip curling in a slight sneer. "Can we help you, old man? This area is for performers and staff only." Samuel's voice was soft, almost a whisper. I'm supposed to be here. I'm one of the performers." The guards exchanged a look of disbelief, followed by a short, harsh laugh. "You a performer? Don't be ridiculous. Now move along before we have to make you." Samuel's heart sank. He tried to explain, to show them the email on his old flip phone, but they weren't interested. "We don't have time for this," the first guard said, grabbing his arm. The grip was firm, bruising. "You need to leave, now." The second guard took his other arm, and together, they began to march him towards the exit. Samuel stumbled, his old legs struggling to keep up. He felt a wave of humiliation wash over him. People in the corridor stopped and stared, their faces a mixture of curiosity and pity. He could hear their whispers, feel their judgment. No one stepped in. No one said a word. They pushed him out into the cold night air, the heavy door slamming shut behind him. Final, definitive sound of rejection. Samuel stood there, the cool breeze doing little to soothe the burning shame in his cheeks. Rain began to fall, soft at first, then harder, plastering his thin hair to his scalp. He looked at his violin case, the rain-streaked wood a reflection of the tears welling in his eyes. Was this it? Was this how his dream was going to end? Defeated, humiliated, and alone in the rain? He thought about all the years he had practiced, the sacrifices he had made, the melodies that lived inside him, waiting to be set free. He had poured his soul into his music, and for what? To be thrown out like trash. Just as despair began to consume him, a frantic young woman with a clipboard burst through the door. "Mr. Thompson, Samuel Thompson." "Oh, thank goodness I found you." She rushed to his side, an umbrella appearing over his head. "There's been a terrible misunderstanding. Those guards, they've been dealt with. Please, you have to come back inside. You're on in 15 minutes. Hope, fragile but persistent, flickered back to life in Samuel's chest. He looked at the young woman, her face filled with genuine remorse, and slowly nodded. He wasn't going to let this defeat him. Not now. Not ever. He had a story to tell, and his violin was his voice. Backstage, the atmosphere was completely different. He was ushered into a private dressing room, offered a warm towel and a hot cup of tea. People apologized profusely. The stage manager, a kind-faced man, knelt before him. "Mr. Thompson," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "what they did to you was inexcusable. We are so deeply sorry. The world needs to hear your music tonight more than ever." Samuel simply smiled, a quiet, forgiving smile. The anger and humiliation had faded, replaced by a calm resolve. He had faced much worse in his life. This was just another hurdle, another note in the complex symphony of his existence. When the time came, the stage manager announced him. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special performance for you tonight. A man whose journey to this stage is a testament to the power of resilience and the beauty of the human spirit. Please welcome the incredible Samuel Thompson." As Samuel walked onto the stage, a hushed silence fell over the auditorium. He could see the faces in the crowd, the same people who had watched him being dragged out earlier. He saw recognition dawn in their eyes, followed by a collective gasp that rippled through the hall. Whispers erupted. Is that the same man? The one they threw out?" Samuel didn't look at them. He walked to the center of the stage, the single spotlight feeling like a warm embrace. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and lifted his violin to his chin. And then he played. The first note was pure, clear, and filled with a sorrow so profound it seemed to hang in the air. It was the sound of a lifetime of struggle, of doors slammed shut, of being judged and dismissed. It was the sound of loneliness, of standing in the rain, of a heart on the verge of breaking. The melody wove a story of pain and prejudice, each note a tear he had never allowed himself to shed. But then the music began to shift. Tempo quickened, the notes climbing higher, brighter. The sorrow transformed into strength, the pain into passion. The melody spoke of resilience, of getting back up after being knocked down. It sang of hope, of a spirit that refused to be silenced. It was the sound of a young boy discovering music, of a man practicing in a small, cramped room for decades, of a dream that would not die. The music swelled, filling every corner of the grand hall. It was powerful, defiant, and breathtakingly beautiful. The crowd was mesmerized. All whispers had ceased. People leaned forward in their seats, their faces etched with awe and emotion. They were no longer just watching a performance. They were bearing witness to a soul laid bare. They saw not an old, poorly dressed man, but a master, a virtuoso whose music transcended age, appearance, and social status. They heard the story he couldn't tell with words, the story of a life lived with quiet dignity and unwavering passion. In his music, they heard their own struggles, their own hopes, their own moments of despair and triumph. When the final note faded into silence, the hall remained completely still for a moment, as if the audience was afraid to break the spell. Then, one person stood up and began to clap. Another followed, and another, until the entire auditorium was on its feet. The applause was thunderous, a roar of admiration, respect, and apology. It wasn't just applause for the music, it was for the man, it was for his courage, his perseverance, his grace. Samuel opened his eyes, and this time tears did fall, but they were tears of joy, of release, of vindication. He looked out at the sea of faces, no longer seeing judgment, but seeing connection. He lowered his violin and bowed, a simple, humble gesture of gratitude. That night, Samuel didn't just play the violin. He taught an entire concert hall a lesson about judging a book by its cover, about the dignity that resides in every human being, and about the incredible power of art to heal, to connect, and to elevate the human spirit. His story became a legend, a reminder that true talent and worth are not defined by what you wear or where you come from, but by the fire you carry within your heart. And that fire, when shared, can light up the entire world. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring content. Never forget the music that lives inside you.